敵なんかいない。
Vinland Saga is inspirational, and I mean that in every sense of the word. When I first came into contact with Vinland Saga a few years back when the first season of the anime aired, I thought it was pretty good, but nothing special. It had some pretty cool characters and some good action, but I never thought I would view it through the lens that I do today, well, until I saw that scene. You all know what I'm talking about, and if you aren't, Vinland Saga is a story set during the first recorded turn of the millennia and is loosely based on real historical events. We meet a lot of people that did live in real life, for example Thorfinn Karlsefni, or Thorfinn, or whatever you wanna call him at this point, Thorkel the Tall, Leif Erikson, and King of Denmark Knut, just to name a few. To put it into perspective for you, this is 100 years even before the First Crusade and almost 200 years before the Mongol Empire was a thing. So in case you ever plan to get spoiled on Vinland Saga, you can go read up on history. We see the story mostly through the eyes of Thorfinn, a regular kid that wants to play fight and battle like almost any other kid at that time, and even now I'd argue. Tragedy strikes when his father Thors, a formidable warrior and ex-Jomsviking, is called to battle and is brutally executed right in front of him on the way, which fuels the young Thorfinn with an unquenchable thirst for revenge. You have no enemies. Those are the 4 words his father leaves him with. But how? How could he have no enemies when the people that are responsible for his beloved father's death are right in front of him? And so, hell-bent on taking revenge, Thorfinn sneaks on their ship to kill the leader of these savages, Askeladd. Askeladd is a very complex and twisted character. Early on I thought this would be your typical cunning, sneaky and backhanded villain character who Thorfinn will eventually kill and get his revenge. What actually happens is that by virtue of Thorfinn spending his time close to Askeladd to kill him one day, we learn a lot about Askeladd and we see a lot of different sides to him. He even unwillingly becomes a mentor and father figure of sorts to Thorfinn in a fitting old-fashioned way. As a viewer, we grow to appreciate his good qualities and despise his bad ones. The audience develops a love-hate relationship with him in the truest sense of the word. I'd even go as far as to say that he's the most important character in the first arc of Vinland Saga, which deeply reflects on Thorfinn. As a character early on, he's basically only defined by his lust for revenge on Askeladd and the occasional devil-may-care one-liners he gives when he speaks at all. So let me ask you, what would happen to the story if you took Askeladd out of the equation? Without Askeladd, all this time spent killing bystanders and innocents alike was for nothing. All the burnt down villages and all the destroyed families. All the time this poor kid spent being a mindless lapdog to his worst enemy was for nothing. All those years with a single goal in mind, doing whatever it takes to reach that goal, only for it to get snatched away right before his eyes. Without Askeladd, there is no purpose to anything. Thorfinn does not get his revenge. Almost 60 chapters and over 20 episodes of build-up for this one moment of gratification, only for it to never be possible. What was supposed to be a satisfactory ending and closure to a horrific chapter of Thorfinn's life is now possibly what seems like the worst case. All the audience and Thorfinn are left with is a deep emptiness in face of these turn of events. So, what now? That's the question everyone's left with. Thorfinn lost the reason to keep going. The only thing he knew for most of his life was to kill, and specifically, killing Askeladd. With that gone, what else is there to life? In the long-awaited Season 2, we get an answer to that question. He doesn't care what now. He is only a shell of a human being, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't even mentally present for what the people were doing to him, that being what was custom at the time, being enslaved and sold off to work himself to death somewhere. And that's when the most unexpected flip of the script happens. Vinland Saga, a historical Viking epic up until now, turns basically into a slice of life show. If the first arc of Vinland Saga was about the meaning of death and killing, or the lack thereof, the farming arc is about the meaning of life and how to best live it. This part of the story is slow, at least compared to what came before. We see Thorfinn in a very unnatural habitat and almost completely as a different person. Once all was said and done, he had a lot of time to think about everything that happened. All the people he killed, direct or indirect, now haunting him in his nightmares every night like demons. The way of life he was thrust into after having no plan what to do next serves as a forceful learning experience of how easy it was to destroy and just how difficult it is to create the simplest of things he has taken for granted. The farm, its work, its people, and Einar, his soon-to-be best bro, teach Thorfinn that there is more to life than the thing he sought after all his life. That there is indeed purpose to life, and certainly that there is more to feel than just rage. His environment does not make it easy for him though, as he is confronted with his old ways of dealing people and eventually people from his past as well. On the flip side, however, this serves as a great test of his new resolve. It's quite insane. I've never seen a series pull the rug under its own audience in such a drastic way as Vinland Saga. Now, I know there's gonna be some cynics that say, well, isn't this just your typical revenge bad plot that we've seen a million times already? And if you strip Vinland Saga down to its core, you might be right. But the way that this revenge bad story is done is simply outstandingly brilliant. Instead of giving Thorfinn his revenge by killing Askeladd and coming to realize that it was pointless afterwards, or having him decide otherwise right before the kill shot would not have been as impactful as not giving it to him at all. Because this, in my opinion, is a much more interesting angle to take. Because now, instead of questioning if it was right or just what Thorfinn did or if it was worth it, we question what even was the point. And this gets infinitely more interesting once you progress further into the story, into manga spoiler territory. That's the code word, manga spoilers from this point on, you have been warned. So what would typically be the end of a story is like Vinland Saga's midway point. Thorfinn's realization, his impossible ambition and yearning for an entire land of peace in times where such a thing seems comical, would probably be another story's end. Thorfinn's dream serving as a sort of hopeful message for the audience and a closure to his character arc. Oh, now he sees what he has to do. But as we all know, Vinland Saga does not end there. We actually get to see Thorfinn work towards this impossible dream. We see him get confronted with people whose lives he ruined. We get to see him confronted with the people who ruined his life and his resolve being challenged like never before. And we get to see him actually go to Vinland and try and achieve this impossible peace. And it's precisely the fact that we get to see all of these things. All these things that would just be brushed off in an ending montage where you see the protagonist being happy with the family he now has and living a quiet life somewhere, and then at the end some rando comes to kill him as revenge. We got none of that in Vinland Saga. Thorfinn struggles through everything for his goal while desperately trying not to repeat the mistakes of his past. We get to actually see him following through on an ambition that would usually only live in the mind, and seeing Thorfinn go through all the hardships it would take to achieve something of this scale is what makes his journey so interesting. The fact that we simply get to see Thorfinn having to learn social skills, having to learn how to maneuver dangerous situations, both physical and social, as well as learn how to acquire the funds needed for an endeavor like his, is the thing that makes Vinland Saga inspirational. And of course, it's very deeply tied to who Thorfinn was, is, and wants to be. No matter how good one's intentions and how strong their belief, they are no use when not followed up on. Vinland Saga may be a very idealistic story, but I think stories like this are necessary, especially in times like these. Maybe one day, each and every one of us will realize that we have, indeed, no enemies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you